Mel, everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey, everybody, Cantonese Cat here. I want to talk about Palantir, Tesla, and Nvidia today. Give you a little bit of a weekly update now that the week has closed. Happy Friday, everybody. Before I do that, I just want to get into business here. If you're not following me on X, please do. I post on X a lot of things that I don't even talk about on YouTube here. I made a lot of posts on here throughout X almost the entire scary time this week. If you haven't followed it, please do. A couple things too. If you haven't joined the membership for the channel, please consider doing that. If you want to support me, if you don't, that's fine too. If you just enjoy the content, I appreciate you as well. But if you do, I'm gonna try to see if I can fulfill your chart request. If I can see if I can respond back to you as far as I can. And periodically, I'm gonna try and make some video that are more members exclusive, maybe about weekly or so. And also tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific, and 9 p.m. Asia time, we're going to try and do what is called Spaces here, which is basically like a live podcast that we have available there. And it's going to be a bunch of people that are, pretty big over here at on X. So if you want to follow, that would be great. Anyway, let's get right to business here. Palantir. I had drawn this pitchfork over here a while back, and basically what you're seeing here is that initially it went into the bottom of this channel and then just broke out above to the top part of the channel over here. It's been running in the top part of the channel here for quite some time, and it got initially a little bit rejected here at the top part of the range over here that has dated back all the way to 2020, 2021, and so far, ended up getting a little bit rejected. But as it got rejected, it went all the way back down to this median part of the pitchfork. And we have a very big reaction because that was the Black Monday, if you will. There's a tremendous amount of fear. And a lot of things actually end up finding support, which makes me wonder whether or not it's just pure market manipulation. Regardless, you have a weekly candle so far that engulfed the last two bearish candles. So this is not bearish at all. It bounced from a very, very strong support level, and it pushed all the way. And so far, we closed today, this week, at about $30. It's a pretty significant event because this is really the first time, like even during 2020, you have these wicks over here, and Palantir is really only about like 34, and it closed about 30 for maybe 4 weeks straight over here, briefly on January 2021. And it has done that again so far this week. So it's actually quite a strong accomplishment here. If anything, I can say that it's starting to want to break above the range. It's starting to want to break above this volume shelf over here. It's at the top of this big giant volume shelf over here. So we're not quite out of the woods yet, but it's looking very, very, very strong. It's just it looks excellent. Couple of things too. If you look at the momentum indicator, MCDX plus, you can see that it's very, very red. My friend Danny always says that once it gets to like in the 90s and the retail, no green over here, generally means that the stock is pretty much ready to run, and it can run on for a very, very long time if it continues to stay very, very red, right? And it's just not just in the weekly time frame, it's also happening on the monthly time frame here too, where just whales just continue to increase their momentum. And right now you have whales greater than 80%. So this looks like it could potentially run up pretty fast. The only issue is that we're getting to the top part of the range still. And what I meant by that is just look at the top horizontal zone over here. You're still getting a little bit to the top part of the range over here. So there's still going to be some things that we have to fight. And again, this is the monthly candle. It hasn't closed yet. But if you look at the Bollinger Band, it's still kind of touching the upper part of the Bollinger Band here. And whenever it does that, it does make me wonder whether or not it has to kind of go sideways a little bit or go down a little bit before going up. That's what Palantir has been looking throughout the entire run up. It's just waiting for the Bollinger Band to expand, and it's expanding. And it looks like it wants to run, but it might still run into a little bit of a snag, if you will, based on the monthly and also the weekly Bollinger Band. It's so far we closed the week a little bit, tiny bit above the upper Bollinger Band here. So things are a little bit overextended, but you also have the whalish momentum there behind this move. So we'll see what happens. But so far, so good. I cannot really be that bearish on this chart. Do I think it's time to buy now? Well, the time is probably on Monday or Tuesday, but if you must buy now, just be ready. There's a potential. There's always a potential for things to come back down and trying to backtest some levels of, support, things like that before going up higher. So if you ask me, I think 25 I don't think it's going to go all the way down to like 2021. I think it was a big giant capitulation event over here on pretty decent volume here. So I don't think it's going to go back down to that level again. But, if you're looking for some risk levels so far, maybe like 25, 27 is probably like a range where, maybe if it goes back down, maybe you could consider buying that. Now, I don't like the FOMO. Whenever you have big giant green candle over here, I just get a little bit worried. Just like, big giant green candle over here, are you going to buy here? I mean, it's just end up tops feel for like 3 months after that. But I cannot ignore this big giant, bullish engulfing candle. So Palantir is looking very good. I think at this point again, I think it's a hold. I think the time to buy was when it was like in 21, 22, but so far I think it's a hold. And it might be a buy for you if you don't mind the short-term pain, because honestly, if you ask me about the longer-term opinion, I think this thing is going to keep running. Like, it bounced off the support that it needed to bounce off. Like, it bounced basically almost right off the Tsubishi cloud here on the weekly. And it bounced off of the, pitchfork right around here. So it bounced where it needed to bounce, and it's a very impulsive thing. So I think this bull trend is probably going to keep going for a very long time. And if you ask me, like, whether or not, what if it goes down to like 25, 27, it might, it may not. And I think it already had done a back test of this breakout level over here around 25. I don't think it has to do that again. And I can totally see as the bullish band expands, it keeps on going to like 35, 45, and just keeps going up. I think 2025 is going to be a very fun year for Palantir. It looks that way. Like 2025 looks like it's just wants to continue to go up on this parabolic bull trend. And I think it can potentially hit some of the targets up here, like around like 70, around 110 over the next like 2-3 years. It's not impossible based on how impulsive this is. And also just looking at fundamentals, like so far the earnings has been showing some pretty incredible growth rates. They just don't look like they want to stop both from the fundamental and the technical side. So that's Palantir. If you just look at the monthly Ichimoku, also had a bullish cross and is carrying through, right? The Tenkin right now is just serving as very, very good support and push price up. As price goes up, it backtests the Tenkin. All of this is very, very bullish, right? So I don't have anything bad to say about Palantir. The second story I want to talk about is Tesla. Now, Tesla is a little bit tricky. Tesla is a little tricky because so far it's just basically chopsville, right? It's been oscillating around the level of around 200. And it's almost like you throw a pinball up there and there's a magnet around 200. And so it overshot a little bit, and then undershot a little bit, and overshot a little bit, undershot a little bit. And it's just been kind of oscillating around this area of 200. But make no mistake about it, around 200 is the magnet level, but overall this is still a bull trend, right? Like it looks, it's there's nothing bearish about this chart on a higher time frame. So it's been oscillating around this area, and once it's done oscillating, it's going to try to pick a direction, and it could either be up or down. And if you're gonna ask me, I think it's going to favor the primary trend. Primary trend is up, so most likely it's going to go up after it's done consolidating over here, right? If you just look over here right now, we're back testing around 200 from up top. If you look at a smaller time frame, you're going to see a little bit of something a little bit different, right? If you look at the 2 week, it almost looks like we broke underneath the 200, and we're trying to back test it as resistance. And so far, we're closing right on the dot around 200. Even look at the daily chart, we definitely broke underneath the 200 level, right? And it's just looking like it's a very, very nice ascending triangle trying to break above 200 here again. A couple of things to look at the daily chart here. If you look at the SMA, the simple moving average, we're just using this 200-day simple moving average as resistance, but it's forming a very, very nice ascending triangle. It looks like it really wants to break back above, but it's just been consolidating on sideways here for the whole week, maybe building up some energy to try to do that. As the 200-day moving average continues to kind of flatten here a little bit, allowing it to be easier to get attacked, right? Another thing too, this is also confluent with the 200-day EMA exponential moving average. Price also right underneath of that. There's a lot of confluence over here, so I think it's just been consolidating sideways here, trying to build a lot of energy, trying to break through above. And it's always good to have these little bit like ascending triangle look to it. Also, let's just look at an Ichimoku cloud. Looks like it's just been bouncing at the bottom of the thundercloud, maybe building up some energy. Hopefully this cloud is able to kind of push through. I mean, it could always a risk for it to kind of break down underneath the cloud and kind of go maybe form a little bit of like a higher low here before going up further. But so far it looks like it wants to break above but it's just simply got, too many resistance here. So if you want to look at even like a lower time frame to try to figure out what it's doing, I can look at like maybe like a 1 hour chart. In a 1 hour chart, you can clearly see that this is like an ascending triangle. I like to put up the weight trend also later when I'm looking at this time frame. There's a little bit of like, a little bit of tiny exhaustion over here, but it still looks like this trend is still overall pointing up, right? So there's a nice ascending triangle here on the 1 hour. On the 2 hour, the trend is still up. Again, you can see this ascending triangle, which is a bullish formation very clearly here on the 2 hour. And the momentum is still pointing up. If you are looking at the Ichimoku, you can see that it's kind of hitting a little bit of resistance over here too. So it's going to probably need some time to kind of push back above, but it looks like the formation looks bullish, and it looks like it wants to push back above, at least to, the cloud up here. If you look at the 4 hour chart, you can see that reclaimed the Tenkan, very nice, right? The trend is now turning positive. If you look at the daily oscillator, the daily oscillator also looks like it's trying to turn positive now. And the daily oscillator just look extremely oversold. You have a move that has gone up, and then you have the oscillator kind of gone down. This is a very classic hidden bullish divergence. So I think the next move is probably going to be up based on a lot of these different things I'm seeing. If you look at it weekly, it's a little bit of a different story, and you'll lose a lot of momentum over here. You do have a lot more, bearish momentum here being built up. But again, I think whenever you have something that's just so downward pointing, sometimes that could be the bottom, Anyway, I do think that on the weekly time frame, 200 is still going to be a pretty strong resistance level. And you are still going to need to break above all these resistance up here around 205, around 220, and also around 225. All of these are going to be pretty strong resistance. It is trying to reclaim the boomerang support band, which is always a good thing. It's always a positive development. But yeah, it's just it's just been trying to break through 200. 200 is going to be a pretty important zone here, as you can see, like a pretty strong horizontal level over here too, right? On the higher time frame, though, I like to look at the 2-week Ichimoku cloud. This week is kind of closing below these, initially, with support. Now there's going to be a little bit of resistance down here. But the 2-week chart really is very, very telling. Like it's just been trying to break back above the cloud many, many times. 1, 2, 3, and the 4th time, right? And right now we've kind of gotten back underneath the cloud, but so far the downward movement is a lot less compared to what it was over here, right? Which is what they were referring it to, like a higher low, right? So right now it still looks a little bit more of like a reaccumulation type pattern, and it looks like it wants to break back above. And it's just trying to build up a little bit more energy and trying to break back above, but I think eventually it's going to end up turning bullish here. Now, Tesla, the month is still young. We haven't really closed this monthly candle yet. I would like to see the monthly candle close above 208.24, which is above the red line over here. It was able to close inside the Ichimoku cloud, which is going to be around, like 213. That'll be a very bullish development for the month. The month is still young. It's not even halfway over yet. It might end up being bearish too. I don't know, but I don't think it's going to form, I don't think it's going to challenge at 140s or 100 or anything like that. It's just the market structure doesn't really look like that anymore. I would also like to see that even if the price goes sideways a little bit longer, you're probably going to end up getting a bullish Tenkan Kijun cross. Like the blue is going to end up crossing above the red. But that's just what it kind of looks like to me, right? So we'll see what happens with Tesla. But one thing I am turning very positive about in Tesla is just simply that the 20-month moving average is pointing up finally. So this hasn't really happened. Like the 20-month moving average hasn't really been pointing up since August and September 2022, and right now it's doing that. Certainly the price is underneath of the rising 20 right now, but if it's rising, I think it's probably going to be a better support than resistance. So I would not be surprised at all if price end up gravitating up towards the 20-month moving average, closing above. Currently it's around like 212 or so. I'm not surprised if it ended up closing a month about 212, 213, which should also mean that it might end up closing back inside Ichimoku cloud here to close the month. That would be excellent if it does that. I don't need it to go do anything parabolic. I just need it to try and flip some of these resistance levels back into support That's what I really wanted to do. I don't really care whether or not it like goes parabolic, goes crazy, right? Whenever price got to like the 270s, I was really upset, and I didn't really want to buy. And sure enough, people sold over here around the 270s because it's the top of the monthly Ichimoku cloud. So I do think the bottoming of the Ichimoku cloud is also very important. I do think that there's a good chance that we might end up closing the month of August around 213. We'll see. If it does that, I think it's going to be a pretty bullish development. That's really all I have for Tesla. I can talk about like price target and things like that, but it doesn't really matter right now. Like right now, the whales are reaccumulating. I'm accumulating. Anything that's under 200, I think, is a great buy. Anything that's above 200, I might nibble down a little bit. But that's kind of what I'm seeing with Tesla. With Nvidia, which is going to be the last stock that I talk about here today, Nvidia is looking like it wants to run. The reason why I say that is it no longer looks overextended. This bull market rides up on the blue line on the Tengen, and right now we just back tested the Tengen, right? Bull markets generally ride up along the blue line, right? And whenever things get a little bit too far, you might have to correct sideways and wait for the blue line to catch up, or you might have to go down in price to try to get back to the blue line before you can go up further, right? And so far, we really successfully back-tested the monthly Tengen, the blue line over here. So I don't really necessarily think we have to go down any further. I think it's ready to run if it wants to. Can it go sideways for a little bit longer? Sure it can. Initially, I really thought that things were just up here and we might end up having to go sideways for a very long time. But no, it wanted to correct through price. This is actually a positive thing. I think that when I see something like that, rather than the price just kind of going sideways here for months, when I see something going down like that, that actually is positive, that I think that there's a potential that the bull market runs a little bit longer. Initially, I really thought that the bull trend is starting to exhaust, and I really think that, hey, maybe we have another like 2.5x or 3x to go from here on out, and that's going to be the end of the bull market. But because it made the move back down and touched the Tengen, it looks like it wants to maybe make a little bit of like a healthier move on the way up. So I actually wonder whether or not it's going to end up moving a lot faster. The reason why I say that is look at the Bollinger Band. What happens when there's a trend exhaustion, meaning that you already have the majority of the gains already been made, it can still keep going up, but that would be an exhaustion move. What I meant by exhaustion is I think trend was exhausted over here, and I think trend was exhausted over here. And why I say that was because just looking at the Bollinger Band expansion, I think the monthly Bollinger Band expansion stops around January 2017, and that's when price went sideways here for quite some time, and it only really made another like 2.5, 3x after that. Same thing here. Whenever the Bollinger Band stops expanding, that's when the trend got exhausted, and it really only made another like 2.5x after that, right? So far, we are having a little bit of a Bollinger Band contraction down here. Now, this Bollinger Band contraction doesn't necessarily mean that it won't expand down again if it ends up just making some very impulsive move up, right? But if you see this, it does make you wonder, are we at this point over here where we are starting to get an exhaustion, or are we going to end up having a very parabolic move and just continue to expand the Bollinger Band again and the trend just keep going up? I don't know the answer to that. All I can say is with the Bollinger Band kind of curling up like that, it does make me wonder whether or not the bull trend is starting to get a little bit exhaustion. So I can potentially see maybe another 2.5, 3, or even 4x from here. But it may not be like the 10x gain that has already been making, since the bottom here, October 2022. That is the enigma. And if you also just look at the monthly RSI, it does look like, I'm not seeing like a bearish divergence or anything like that quite just yet. Not like up here, right? Price just kept going up here on bearish divergence. Price just kind of kept going up on relative bearish divergence because the RSI didn't really make any higher highs except for this like blow off top over here, right? So really the trend really started exhausted over here, but price just kept on going up on flat or negative sloping RSI. Right now, there's not really any bearish divergence. Like it would not be surprised if this side could just keep going up. Maybe it makes a higher high, maybe it doesn't, maybe it makes a low high. Either way, price could keep going up a lot. I don't know, but if it makes a higher high on the RSI, I'll be blown away. Like the Bollinger Band, the low Bollinger Band would continue to just keep dragging down, and the bull trend would just keep on continuing. I'll be blown away. I don't anticipate that, but I'll be blown away. If you were looking for like a lower time frame chart to try and figure out what's going on with Nvidia, first of all, like just look at the on the higher time frame. if I can pull up the MCDX Plus, you can see like whales are still in. Like they're like 90 something percent in monthly whales. Like nobody wants to sell Nvidia really, and lower time frame, either weekly, just a little bit of retail coming in, but whales are still like around 90%. So there's nothing really like entirely scary about it. If you look at Ichimoku here, we are reclaiming the baseline here, which is a positive development. So there are quite a few things here that makes me feel pretty decent about it. Just like and on the lower time frame, I generally like to pull up the wave trend oscillator. You see that the wave trend oscillator was oversold. It looks like it wants to bounce. Positive momentum, ascending triangle, just like Tesla. And if you look at the Ichimoku, it's underneath the cloud over here. It's trying to reclaim the blue line, the Tenkan over here, but it's not able to do that quite just yet. But overall, the momentum seems like it wants to point up, and that's also being shown over here in the wave trend oscillator. If you look at the lower time frame, you can see the bullish momentum has already started picking up on the lower time frame. And so far, we did end up getting rejected here a little bit by the kitchen at the 4-hour time frame, but it looks like it wants to push up higher. That's what it looks like to me. Even on a lower time frame, on the 2-hour, is already broken, above these resistance over here. It looks like it wants to get to the cloud up here. A little bit of exhaustion over here, but it still looks like it wants to keep running a little bit higher. And then we'll see what happens and how it reacts through the cloud. I can see it punch it through the cloud, back test, maybe back test and stay around here for a little bit longer in August, and then go up higher. This is what it looks like. This is actually kind of what like Bitcoin looks like before it bounced. So I am, relatively bullish on Nvidia. It looks like there's a lot of technical repairment on the lower time frame. That's probably going to end up translating it to the higher time frame. All of this stuff over here was built on bullish diversions as price kind of just kept going down from here, going down. You can see that the wave trend was going up. Like you can see that whenever price like went from here down there, you can see the wave trend goes up, right? So you actually have a lot of bullish divergence here that are building up a lot of momentum, kind of push price up a lot higher. And I think most likely we bottom around like 90. That's gonna be what I think is gonna happen, And with this move up, you can see like there's a pretty nice demand candle over here, like a hammer bottom candle over here. So it looks like it wants to push up, but it just needs to kind of work up its technicals. But the momentum seems to be up here for Nvidia as well. Anyway, I just want to go through these 3 stocks again. If you can, I would appreciate if you can consider joining the membership. And I would also appreciate if you're able to join us tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific. This is going to be recorded as well, so if you miss it, don't worry. Just follow my profile here, and you can find the Spaces. This is like a great podcast that I generally do on Saturday morning with my friends. Anyway, take care. Have a good one. Bye.